about that. Looks like had a bit of a delay here. At a old friend of mine came to town.
Hello.
This is Peepa, everybody. We are doing a bit of a stream about chimping out, and by that, I'm literally talking about chimps. Cue the call.
Send the police!
What's the problem there?
The chimp killed my friend!
What's the problem with your friend? I need to know.
The police come! With a gun! With a gun! He ripped her face off!
He ripped her face off?
He tried to attack me! Please,
Okay,
hurry!
I need you to calm down a little bit. They're on the way.
Please, hurry up! He's killing my girlfriend!
241 Rock Raymond Road. They're saying someone has a gun and trying to kill somebody.
Hurry up!
They're on the way, but I need you to give me more information. Who's doing this?
With guns!
Who has the guns?
Now bring the guns! You gotta kill this chimp! Chimp!
What's the problem there?
Hurry up!
I need you to talk to me. I need you to calm down. Why do you need somebody there?
What? Please, guys!
What is the problem?
He's killing my friend!
Who's killing your friend?
Dead, my chimpanzee! She's dead! She's dead!
Why are you saying that she's dead?
She's dead! He ripped her apart!
He ripped what apart? Her face?
Everything!
So, yeah, that was probably Exhibit A of why you probably shouldn't have a chimpanzee for a pet. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but something that is, probably about as strong as 20 toddlers and as smart as one. I don't think that's something you should treat like a dog. So we're going to read about this chimp that, the 911 call is about. Travis the chimp. Travis the Menace. He was the most famous ape in America. But to really understand a chimp, you have to know his mother. By Dan P. Lee. Throughout her life, Sandy Harold had long, straight hair so black it almost looked wet. She wore it down below her shoulders, her bangs cut straight across. She applied bright pink lipstick and copious amounts of bronzer. She wore skin-tight size 7 jeans. She spoke with a strange accent, a New York-New England hybrid, and spent her entire life in Stamford, Connecticut. She was born in 1938 to a Jewish mother and Italian father who operated a popular bakery downtown and eventually built an unassuming shingled house on a windy road called Rock Rimmon to the north of the city. As an only child, Sandy spent much of her time playing with her German shepherd Gretchen and tending to the horses on the property. At birthdays, her parents outfitted her in silk dresses and cardigans and had her pose for photographs, smiling near multi-tiered cakes, Gretchen standing at her side. She married shortly after high school, then again in 1960. Her second marriage was romantic, intense, and desperate. She adored her new husband, with whom she had a daughter named Susan in 1961. But they fought violently over his frequent affairs and divorced after 4 years. At 30, Sandy married her third husband, Jerry Harold, who was kind, intelligent, and devoted. Her life stabilized. She, Jerry, and Sue, whom Jerry raised as his own, ultimately settled in the house on Rock Rimmon Road with Sandy's parents. Sandy and Jerry opened several businesses in Stamford, including a tow operation and an auto body shop that would soon make them unlikely millionaires. For a time in the 70s, Sandy, Sue, and Jerry towed their horses from state to state so that Sandy, and later Sue, could barrel race semi-professionally in rodeos. It was during a stint with the country singer Loretta Lynn's traveling rodeo that Sandy struck up a lifelong friendship with an 18-year-old runaway named Charla Nash, who was rodeoing her way around the country. One day, Sandy and Charla spotted a chimpanzee dressed in Western wear who rode a horse around the ring. Sandy sought him out backstage. She was carrying gummy bears. He took them from her with his fingers. Later, back atop his horse and wearing a cowboy hat, the chimp spotted Sandy in the audience. He jumped down, ran on 2 legs, and leaped into her arms. Forgive the noise in the background, that's just my roommate, old roommate, with dealing with food there.
Sorry.
That's alright, don't worry about it. Between the expanding businesses, the horses in the yard, and their many dogs, the Harolds lived a happy, frenetic life. Sue grew into a platinum blonde version of her mother. The two raced side by side, country line danced, worked together at the businesses. Mother and daughter were engaged in one endless conversation. And so, when Sue married an employee from her parents' shop and moved away, Sandy was bitter and heartbroken. Then, each of her parents became sick and died. Her world narrowed further. Seemingly, all of a sudden, she saw herself and Jerry drifting beyond the outer periphery of middle age. Jerry was home tending to the businesses as Sandy landed at the Lambert St. Louis International Airport one day in 1995. A few days earlier, she had received a call from Connie Casey, a breeder in Festus, Missouri, a rural town 35 miles south of St. Louis. Remember that name later, Connie Casey. She's going to be very important. Kind of the overarching sort of villain in all of this. Sandy stood in the Casey's living room. In her arms, swaddled in a diaper, lay tiny Travis, named after her favorite singer, Travis Tritt. Travis was the son of Coco, who'd been snatched from the jungles of equatorial Africa in the early 70s and purchased for $12,000, and an 11-year-old retired zoo chimp named Susie. A day earlier, the Caseys had shot a tranquilizer in Susie and removed Travis from her cage. Travis peered up at Sandy. Black hair covered all but the interior of his face, which was pink, and the two tiny Dumbo ears that jutted from the top of his head. Sandy cried as his hands and feet grasped at her. She paid the Caseys $50,000 in cash, and a few days later, with Travis wrapped in baby blankets, the two of them boarded a flight home. Back in Stamford, Sandy and Jerry played with Travis, who absorbed their smells and cues and began learning their language. Sandy bottle-fed him formula, burped him, put him down for naps in a crib in their bedroom. At 3 months, he turned over. Soon he was scooting, then walking on his arms and legs, his knuckles absorbing much of his weight. They taught him to use the toilet. They joined him in the bathtub. They brushed his teeth and later taught him to brush his own teeth. Sandy bought him an extensive wardrobe and dressed him nearly every morning. The Herolds retrofitted their house to accommodate Travis. They caged in a large room in the rear, which had a set of sliders that led to an outdoor enclosure. They installed a heavy lockable metal door on their bedroom, creating a suite of rooms, including the caged room where Travis could roam freely when he was left alone. When Sandy and Jerry were home, Travis had the entire house at his disposal, knuckle running from the couch in the living room to the kitchen, swinging from the tires and ropes in his room, jumping on the bed. The Herolds also laid a mattress on the floor of their bedroom, though most nights Travis slept in bed with them. That's interesting. Sandy and Jerry took Travis to work with them every day. They installed tire swings, ropes, and trampolines in a giant room above the tow shop. He was inquisitive and friendly. Even the tow drivers and mechanics melted when they saw him. These were some of the happiest days of Sandy's life. By then, Sue had divorced her first husband, and she and her young son had returned to Stamford, moving into a spacious loft-style apartment her parents constructed next to the auto body shop. Sandy and Sue worked together every day in the room above the tow shop with Travis. They joked, gossiped, talked about men. Sue's son, Tyler, and Travis were close in age, and they played well together. As Travis matured more rapidly than Tyler, his fondness for the boy grew, so that he often held him in his lap, kissing him. Travis grew quickly. Jerry played catch-it with him and taught him to ride a tricycle, which was awkward at first, what with his long arms, then a bike, then a ride-on lawnmower. Sandy put on a blue bikini and big gold hoop earrings and took him to the beach, carrying him into the water with her. Sandy and Jerry invited Travis to join them at the table for meals. He ate oatmeal with a spoon every morning. At their favorite Italian restaurant, Pellicci's, she read him the menu, offering him choices. His favorite was filet mignon. He also enjoyed lobster tail. Well, this is a chimp with some expensive tastes. What kind of monkey business is this?
At the time, it was very expensive.
He preferred Lentz chocolates. He liked Nerds candy and taffy, and he loved ice cream, hooting and pulling at Sandy when the ice cream man came down the street. When he was thirsty, hello, Florida man, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
I don't know. I think a Florida man would be a very appropriate person to talk about people owning chimps.
There are multiple
Oh boy.
Floridians in the room.
Is
Yes.
Floridians are amongst us.
Yes.
are they sodomizing it?
No. Thankfully, nobody is committing bestiality in any of these stories.
Not today.
They're just maybe a little too emotionally close to the chimps, not physically.
Thank God.
Not today.
I mean, the closest you get is they had a chimpanzee sleep in a bed with them, just like, a normal person might have a dog or a cat sleep in a bed with them.
Wait, this sounds familiar.
Yes, this is Travis the chimp.
Oh my god.
And we're reading a story from the New Yorker about this person.
Yeah,
When I say person, I meant chimp. I mean, they're treating him like a fucking person. They're feeding him filet mignon, lobster tail, and ice cream.
I think they were teaching him to drive or some shit.
Yeah, they taught him how to drive a lawnmower. I'm just kind of wondering, how do you even take that call? Local, this is the Stanford Police Department. How can I, what's your emergency? I see a chimp driving a car. How do you even, how the fuck you even respond to that without laughing your ass off?
Right. But if I remember right, I think the story of Travis is a pretty dark one.
Oh, no, it is. Yes, it is. We are getting there. We are getting there. In fact, I led off the stream with the call of when it got really dark. He preferred Lind's chocolates. He liked Nerds, candy, and Zaft, and he loved ice cream, hooting and pulling at Sandy when the ice cream man came down the street. When he was thirsty, he swung his body up onto the counter and took out a glass, opened the refrigerator, and poured himself juice or soda. Travis had a distinct sense of humor. He'd become particularly impish when Sandy was on the phone talking. He'd change the channels of the remote furiously. He'd blast the volume on the TV. "Cut it out, you little son of a bitch!" Sandy would yell and then laugh. "I'm gonna kill you, you little bastard!" "I'll tell you," she'd say into the phone, "you should see how smart Travis is. Just today..." Sandy was ceaselessly dumbfounded by Travis's humanness. Though she did not know their names, she seemed to intuit the so-called spindle cells in his brain, cells shared by humans and chimps that are believed to help us process complex thoughts and empathize. Sandy's old friend, Charla Nash, came to visit, bringing with her young daughter, Brianna. They sat outside, Charla playing with Travis, the chimp climbing all over her, messing with her long blonde hair, the two of them posing for pictures. He climbed the tall oak trees around their property, racing up them, jumping from one to the next. Travis quickly became Stanford's most famous resident. The heralds plastered his image on the side of their tow trucks and flatbeds. He sat shotgun on tow calls. Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably threw feces at people who, freaking derelict on their payments.
Well, I mean, he was raised in an environment where that wouldn't have been standard, so...
Yeah. Waving as the truck pulled up, he came to love police officers, especially, and virtually everyone on the force had his photo taken with him. Strangers approached in stores, on the streets. Sometimes they handed them their babies to hold. What?
People are
fucking crazy.
One fall day, a neighbor was out raking leaves. Across the street, he noticed a Corvette coming down the Herald's driveway. It was Travis's favorite car. He perceived it as his own, Sandy said, and in fact there were rumors that Travis had once taken the keys and gotten behind the wheel, turned the ignition, and half standing in the driver's seat, his opposable thumbed feet grabbing the pedal, steered the car down the driveway and out onto Rock Rimmon Road. The man raking leaves watched as the car drew closer. Dressed in animal prints and decked to the nines, Sandy was driving, with Travis in a ball and cap and t-shirt sitting beside her. The windows were down and each had an arm hanging out. Reflexively, the man raised his hand. Sandy and Travis both waved back. Huh. It's a chimp in a diaper trying to kiss a dude. What the hell? When Travis was around 5 years old, Sue fell in love and married again. She had 2 more children. She and her husband eventually decided to relocate near the Outer Banks, where he was opening a mechanic shop. Sandy did not take kindly to the news. Again, she felt abandoned. Again, she disapproved of Sue's husband. Within a few months, however, Sandy was calling to tell Sue she couldn't stand not talking every day. She'd sent money and gifts down to North Carolina. Every note Sue mailed to her mother, no matter how banal, Sandy read repeatedly. Showed repeatedly to Jerry, and bound in plastic for safekeeping. Huh. This woman sounds like she's going bananas.
No wonder she has a monkey.
God damn it.
I'm sorry.
I mean, hey, you know what?
The joke was there.
It was, and I set it up, so that's on me.
That is on you. Good work, Ryan.
Sue was making repeated trips to Connecticut to retrieve their remaining belongings. On her way home one night in September 2000, Sue, who'd complained of back pain and taken a Percocet, was driving on a mostly empty highway. Somewhere in Virginia, her car left the roadway and collided with a tree. Her infant daughter, strapped in her car seat, was unscathed. Sue was ejected from the car. The phone rang inside Rock Rimmon Road, waking Sandy, Jerry, and Travis, all asleep in bed. At an open casket viewing in Stamford, Sue's body lay in a floral print dress that her mother had bought her. Beside her stood an enlarged photo of her in the same dress, holding her newborn daughter. Sandy was anything but stoic in her mourning. She stalked the room, gasping, and blocked certain visitors from coming inside. "That's that bastard!" she shouted at Sue's husband. "If it weren't for him, my daughter would be alive." Huh. And this is a pig with a monkey. In the years after Sue's death, Sandy vacillated between combustible anger and unrelenting depression, so basically undiagnosed bipolar disorder. She struggled to maintain relationships with Sue's children. She distanced herself from her friends and at one point considered suicide. Her life was now built almost entirely around Jerry and Travis, and when she finally began venturing out of the house again, it was with the two of them. One bright winter day, they all drove down to the sea. They walked onto the beach holding hands in a line straight across. It was Travis who held their dog Apollo's leash. Sandy now considered Travis her only child. Travis quickly moved beyond the gangly phases of early adolescence through puberty and into early adulthood. What's a gawk? Canis lupus?
I'm gonna let you
A
finish.
gawk? What the hell is he talking about? I don't know. Travis quickly moved beyond the gangly phases of early adolescence through puberty and into early adulthood. One night after work, Jerry was sipping a glass of wine when Travis climbed up into the seat next to him. Travis was interested in what he was drinking. Jerry offered him a sip. Thus began their nightly ritual. A glass of wine, one for Travis, one for Jerry, served in stemware, which they clinked together as Jerry said cheers. Okay, not gonna lie. I've heard it in your circles. I don't know what the fuck a gawk is. Travis was also growing more willful. 3 years had passed since the death of Sue. It was a warm night in October 2003. Jerry, Sandy, and Travis had eaten a dinner of sausage and peppers and were sitting on the couch watching the World Series. Travis was an avid TV watcher and he particularly liked sports. All three were cheering for the Yankees. I'm not surprised a monkey is a Yankees fan. Sandy and Jerry decided they needed to make a trip to the tow shop. They asked Travis whether he had any interest in a ride. It was a rhetorical question. They were in the 4Runner stop downtown at the intersection of Tresser and Washington Boulevards when someone, for reasons unknown, threw an empty soda bottle into Travis's partially open window. Maybe it was one of the people they towed their truck. I don't know. Travis looked, grunted, unbuckled his seatbelt, and unlocked and opened the door, and began knuckle running across the road. He stood surveying the area in his extra-large adult diaper. Though he was potty-trained, he often wore diapers when he was out. At one point, he lunged at a passerby, and then, all of a sudden, he lay down in the street and began rolling on his back. People in their cars honked and pointed. Traffic at the intersection came to a standstill. Neighbors came to watch. Travis was clearly enjoying himself, climbing over cars, hooting, smiling. He chased the dozen police officers who responded to the call for a loose chimpanzee downtown. The spectators cheered for him as he evaded captures, smacking several officers on their behinds. Cookies and ice cream could not coax him back. Each time they lured him into the 4Runner, Travis opened the door and got out again before they could lock it. This continued for 2 hours. Finally, when he began to tire, Travis climbed into the SUV and buckled his seatbelt. No charges were pressed. Several of the police officers who knew Travis personally wrote in their reports that his attitude was only playful. They escorted the Heralds home. Travis spent the next day in his room grounded. And there he is climbing on a cop. Virtually everyone made light of the escapade downtown. The State Department of Environmental Protection was aware of what happened, and also that the Heralds were in violation of a new statute that required a permit to keep a primate over 50 pounds. But they determined that pressing any action would amount to a most likely unwinnable battle to take custody of a local celebrity and opted not to pursue the matter. Stanford's animal control officer was more concerned. After contacting primatologists, she spoke with Sandy, arguing that Travis was by now a fully sexualized adult. Chimpanzees in the wild have sex, non-monogamously, as often as 50 times a day. That he had the strength of at least 5 men. That adult chimpanzees are known to be unpredictable and potentially violent, which is why all chimp actors are prepubescent. And that maintaining Travis for the duration of his 5 or 6 decade lifetime was not viable. Sandy seemed to pay an open mind to the officer's warning, but ultimately concluded that Travis had never exhibited even the slightest capacity for violence. There was one piece of information that Sandy chose not to share with the officer. 2 years earlier, the Heralds had received a phone call from Connie Casey, the breeder in Festus. She explained how Travis's parents, Susie and Coco, had escaped their cages and, with a third chimp, run across the ranch to a nearby housing development where a 17-year-old named Jason Coates and some friends were pulling into Coates' driveway on their way home from the Dairy Queen. Coates claimed the chimps approached his Chevy Cavalier and trapped the teenagers inside, baring their teeth and rocking the car. Coates eventually got out, ran into his house, and grabbed a shotgun. Casey had by then arrived at the driveway and tranquilized Susie, who was now, according to Casey and several eyewitnesses, sitting at the edge of the road. Excuse me. God damn. I've just kind of tripped over my own goddamn tongue. Casey had by then arrived at the driveway and tranquilized Susie, who was now, according to Casey and several eyewitnesses, sitting at the edge of the road, stoned, fingering the grass and flowers. Casey begged Coates not to shoot. He fired 3 rounds at Susie. She died 2 hours later. Following several neighbors' testimony that the chimps were behaving playfully and had posed no threat, a jury found Coates guilty of property damage and animal abuse, and he served a month in jail. Coates nevertheless remained steadfast in his belief that the chimps were dangerous. And again, a pig holding a chimp.
Fortunately, he's right.
Yeah, it's, again, they're really smart,
This if it wasn't good.
really aggressive.
Is there a condom wrapper before?
The Herald stopped taking Travis out in public after the incident in downtown Stamford, and they spent most of their time away from work at home with him. One night, over takeout spaghetti dinners at the kitchen table, Travis was sulking. He was sitting next to Jerry, facing away from him. Jerry was eating heartily after some dental work he had earlier in the day. Jerry and Sandy were trying to engage Travis. "Daddy got his tooth fixed today," Jerry said. "Look." Travis wouldn't. "Come on, Trav," Sandy said. "Look at Daddy's new tooth."
I see where the problem comes in now.
Travis turned, glanced begrudgingly. "Come on, Trav," Jerry said. "Which tooth had a boo-boo? Which one?" Travis looked finally. Jerry opened his mouth. "Which one?" I muted my mic for that. Travis looked for a second before extending his long index finger. He placed the tip of it directly on Jerry's left molar. Sandy and Jerry cheered. "That's the one, Travis! That's the one!" Travis' lips curled open around his gleaming white teeth. He bounced in his chair and buried his face in Jerry's chest. Shit. "Show Daddy your teeth now," Sandy told him. Travis looked at her, looked at Jerry, puckered his lips again, exposed his teeth, and tilted his head up toward Jerry. Jerry cheered. "Show Daddy your big tongue now," Sandy said. Travis opened his mouth and unfurled his giant pink tongue. Once again they cheered. By now, Travis could not contain himself. He smiled broadly and grunted, his shoulders shaking in silent laughter. He patted Jerry on the back. Finally, he wrapped his long arm around him. Occasionally, Jerry complained that he wasn't feeling well. After playing with Travis one morning in March 2005, he went off to work where his discomfort sharpened. He asked one of his employees to take him to the hospital. Over the course of Jerry's weeks-long stay, during which his doctors tried to arrest his rapidly spreading stomach cancer, Sandy spent virtually every minute at the hospital. One night, he said he wanted to talk to her about Travis. He asked her what she would do if he were to die, if it were to become just her, alone with Travis. As much as he said it pained him, he urged her to send Travis to a sanctuary. He told her Travis was too much for her to manage alone. He said it was best for both of them. When Sandy arrived home from the hospital, Travis smelled her clothing frantically, inhaling Jerry's scent. He was at first disoriented by Jerry's sudden absence, then despondent. Several times, Sandy put Travis on the phone to talk to Jerry. Each time, Travis became so upset that she had to take the phone away. Travis sat rocking back and forth for hours. He lifted pictures of Jerry off the wall, put his lips to the glass, held him to his chest. Sandy took them all down and put them in a box. On April 12, Jerry died. And there's the chimp starting the mower. Huh.
That is depressing.
Yeah, it is. I think gawk, I think he means girl cock, but okay, whatever.
I don't think that's what he meant. Not in this context.
What is a gawk?
I don't fucking know.
Oh.
I don't eat that.
Okay.
Not in this context, no.
Fair enough. After Jerry's death, Sandy ignored condolences and stopped speaking to many of her friends. Travis continued his rocking. When she sat on the sofa crying, Travis gently brushed her hair. He bit her nails and used an emery board to file them. A monkey manicure.
That's actually pretty cool.
Whoa, dead air.
Sorry.
No, I'm saying it for me. I was just taking a hit.
I'm okay.
When almost a year had passed, Sandy sat down to write a letter. She drafted it in longhand and addressed it to a woman in Florida who runs a respected chimpanzee sanctuary. These were the last two paragraphs. Needless to say, after 45 years with the most wonderful man in the world, we are both lost without him and miss him dearly. Travis still waits for him, especially at supper time, because at that time they both had a glass of wine with their supper, and if my husband ever cooked anything, you can bet it has garlic in it. Try having two guys breathing on your sleep time with garlic breath. Travis would go to the bedroom window many nights, sit on the bench seat, look out, and get very vocal and happy, then come back to sleep. This was always very late at night. Finally, I went to a psychic, and she told me Jerry was visited at night and talked to Travis, and my husband would always kiss me goodnight. P.S. Him and Travis kiss alike. That's good too. What? Okay. I have no family. My only child, Susan, had gotten killed in an auto accident 4 years before Jerry died, and who Travis also loved. My grandkids live in North Carolina, and I don't see them very often. I live alone with Travis. We eat and sleep together, but I am worried that if something happens to me as suddenly as my husband, what would happen to Travis? Therefore, I have to try to do something before that happens. I set up a trust fund for him, but that's not enough. He needs someone to play with of his own kind and have the best, most possible life if I'm not here to care for him. I would love to see and talk to you if that's possible. I am flying down to see your member event enclosed as our donation. I am looking forward to meeting you. She signed the letter, Sandy, Jerry, and Travis, and enclosed photos of Travis and the family. She wrote out a check for $250, signing it from both her and Travis. She put everything in a stamped envelope. She never mailed the letter and never made the trip. Charla Nash and Sandy reunited around the time of Jerry's death. Charla and the then 12, holy crap, year old daughter. Let me get a little water here. Maybe I need to hydrate myself.
Want me to make you a mac and cheese cut? Or are you good from food?
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you, though. And her then 12-year-old daughter had lived itinerantly at one point, staying for more than a year in a homeless shelter. Charla had taken odd jobs, picked up occasional yard work, cleaned horse stalls. The reunion was mutually beneficial. Sandy invited Charla and her daughter to move rent-free into the loft apartment that had once been Sue's. She gave Charla a job, handling towing dispatch and bookkeeping. Over time, the terms of Charla's employment blurred. Charla tended to Sandy's lawn and would look in on Travis if Sandy was away. She rarely was. For 4 years, Travis never left home, and Sandy only sporadically did, aside from compulsive shopping trips. She spent hundreds of thousands of dollars at stores like TJ Maxx and Marshall's, stuffing bags of clothes in dozens of plastic bins that filled almost every room of the house. She and Travis relegated themselves to the kitchen and the suite in the rear of the house. In early 2008, construction was underway on a gigantic new addition that Jerry had designed for Travis years earlier. Travis, by this point, no longer bore much physical resemblance to his former self. He was 14 years old, 5 feet tall, 240 pounds, and morbidly obese. His hairline had receded dramatically, and his center torso had gone gray. His face was black and wrinkled. His chest sagged. He spent the majority of his day snacking, watching TV, playing on the computer, and roaming the house. It was February 16, and Sandy and Charla had just returned from a weekend at the Mohegan Sun Casino. Before leaving, Sandy had taken Charla to get her hair colored and curled, in case, Sandy had joked, 2 eligible bachelors crossed their paths. Sandy had offered Charla some gambling money. At dinner one night, Sandy had opened her purse and showed the waiter several pictures of Travis. "Do you think he looks more like his mom," she had asked, "or his aunt?" Now it was after 3 p.m., and Sandy was in a bit of a panic. She was meeting a friend, and as she'd been cleaning Travis's room, he'd walked into the kitchen, picked up the keys from the counter, unlocked the door, and ventured out into the yard. He seemed agitated for a good part of the day. After eating a lunch of fish and chips and Carvel ice cream cake, He'd not been particularly interested in watching any of the 3 TVs that were playing in the house. He did not want to draw or color. He did not want to pet his cat Misty. Even the smorgasbord of food, the popsicles in the freezer she'd labeled for him with R for red and F for fudgesicle, the steam-in-a-bag vegetables he liked to toss in the microwave himself, was unappealing. Sandy, slightly concerned, had dropped his Xanax in his mug of afternoon tea. She was on the phone with Charla. She told her about Travis. He was outside, she said, running from car to car, apparently wanting to go for a ride. He'd ignored her entreaties to come back inside. Later, Sandy would say that Charla volunteered to come over and help. Charla would maintain she was asked. In any case, Charla had arrived at about 3:40, opened the iron gate at the end of the driveway, and drove to the front of the house. She'd stepped out onto the frozen dirt and grass and held over her face a red Elmo doll she thought to bring with her. Travis was in the front yard, about 35 feet away. He knuckle-ran toward her, then came up on his legs. "Travis!" Sandy shouted. "Travis, what are you doing? Travis, stop! Travis! It's Charla, Travis!" Travis knocked her into the side of her car, then to the ground. Almost immediately, Charla turned red with blood. Sandy screamed and grabbed a nearby snow shovel. She ran to Travis and began beating him over the head. He was screaming too. A terrible, high-pitched screech. He continued at Charla, unyielding. Hysterical, Sandy ran back into the house. She grabbed a butcher knife. She ran back, screaming all the while. As Travis stood... As Travis stood over Charla, chewing, ripping, pulling, Sandy plunged the knife into his back. He did not stop. She pulled the knife out and stabbed him twice more, to little effect. Travis stood up, finally, turned to look Sandy in the face, directly in the face, then continued. Sandy ran to her Volkswagen Passat, parked about 15 away. She got in and locked the door. She dialed 911, still holding the butcher knife. "Stamford 911, where's your emergency?" 241 Rockrimmon Road. Send the police. What's the problem? Send the police! What's the problem here? The chimp killed my friend. What's wrong with your friend? Sandy gasped, pressed her feet into the floor of the car to turn around and look. Her face pushing the buttons of her cell phone, she sobbed. "Oh, please, send the police with the gun. With the gun, hurry up." "Who has the gun?" "Please, hurry up. Please, hurry up. He's killing my girlfriend." "I need you to talk to me. I need you to calm down. Why do you need somebody there?" "What? Please, God." "What's the problem?" "He's killing my friend." "Who's killing your friend?" "My chimpanzee." "Oh, your chimpanzee is killing your friend?" "Yes, he ripped her apart. Hurry up, please." "What is going on? What is the monkey doing? Tell me what the monkey is doing." He ripped her face off." "He ripped her face off?" "Gun, they've got to shoot him. Please, hurry, please." Ma'am, I need you to calm down. They're already on their way." I can't. He's eating her. He's eating her? Please, God, please, where are they? It went on for 12 minutes. When the authorities finally arrived, they saw a body lying mostly naked on the ground, lifeless and covered in nearly half its blood supply. Travis was roaming the property. He made his way to the police car. He swatted off its driver's side mirror. He went to the passenger side and tried to open the locked door. He walked back around to the driver's side. He tried the door. It opened. The officer lurched. He struggled to remove his gun from its holster. His body became wedged against the center console computer. Travis stared into the car, baring his blood-streaked teeth. In one swift motion, the officer at last released his gun and fired 4 rounds. Travis staggered backwards, screeched, defecated, and ran off. The officer got out of his car. Huge chunks of scalp and fingers lay scattered around the yard. He walked slowly to the body. With the stump of what remained of her arm, Charla Natch reached for his leg. As another group of officers set out into the woods to look for him, Travis scampered unnoticed into the house. Leaving a trail of blood, he knuckle-walked through the kitchen, the bedroom, and into his room. Then he grasped his bedpost, heaved forward, and died. And that is why you should never own a chimp.
Yep.
Charla Nash's injuries were overwhelming. Travis had bitten or torn away her eyelids, nose, jaw, lips, and most of her scalp. He'd broken nearly all the bones of her facial structure. He'd fully removed one of her hands and virtually all of the other. He'd rendered her blind. And yet, she did not die. 3 days after the attack, in critical condition, Charlotte was flown by specialized jet from Stamford to the Cleveland Clinic. 15 months of intervention followed. 1 month after the attack, her family filed a $50 million lawsuit against Sandy. Yeah, no kidding. Sandy was alone. After weeks of blistering coverage, journalists from around the world who, hoping to coax Sandy out of the house, had left her flowers, coffee, and sympathy notes, had finally moved on. The reporting had included many inaccuracies, such as the unsubstantiated assertion, which Sandy never disputed, that Travis was the same chimpanzee who had appeared in the iconic Old Navy ads of the 90s and on the Maury Povich show. The New York Post had accused Sandy of weird chunkle love and all but said that she and Travis had sexual relations.
No?
Talk about a monkey fucker.
Maybe emotional incest, but not actual.
Oh, it's not incest. It's not actually his mom.
She treated him as her son.
Even after the press mob had lost interest in her chimp, the allegation that hurt her the most was that she cared more about Travis than Charla. I stabbed my own son, she cried to friends on the phone.
Told you.
For a long time inside her house, Massima Jack laughing my ass off. She stabbed my own son, she cried to friends on the phone. For a long time inside her house, she refused to clean up his blood. She sat a gigantic stuffed chimpanzee in the leather chair in his room. You can't imagine, she sobbed into the phone late at night. They cut off his head! She was referring to the last time she'd seen Travis, when she'd gone to the crematorium to drop off his favorite tie-dyed t-shirt and discovered he'd been decapitated for rabies testing. She tried to reconstitute her life. She visited occasionally with friends and made trips to the casino. She continued shopping, much of it for clothes for her 3 grandchildren that she would end up never sending, until her house became impassable. She sat at her kitchen table and leafed through stacks of mail, old letters, old pictures, doodling Sue's name on the back of envelopes. She tuned in nightly to Bill O'Reilly, which I suspect is less about him being right-wing and more of his resemblance to a chimpanzee.
We're doing it live.
In fact, you know what? Why don't we just take a...
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. Okay, I don't know. Whatever it is, it's not right on the teleprompter. I don't know what that is. I've never seen that.
No, there it is. We are going to do Sting, yeah.
Okay, but...
listen, we can't have a period of, someone chimping out, talking about chimps without having a guy chimp out. Just saying.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't read it. There's no words on it.
Okay. Honey? Sure.
There's no words there. To play us out. What does that mean? To play us out.
Sting is going to do, it's a video, Sting video.
What is...
For credits.
I don't know what that means, to play us out. What does that mean? To end the show?
Yeah.
Wow. They really did not hire that guy for his brains.
Yeah.
All right, go.
In 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it.
Okay. In 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. And we will leave you with a... I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it, and we'll do it live.
Right.
Fucking thing sucks.
And this is what happens when white people chimp out. Well, right before they destroy their own continent a few times.
In 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks again for watching. We'll leave you with Sting and a cut off his new album. Take it away.
Yep. Alright, after that little segue, she talked and cried on the phone incessantly. The subject was almost exclusively Travis. One of her daughter's friend helped her set up a profile on Match.com. She went on a date with an elderly Stanford man who appalled her by requesting oral sex as they were having dinner. What the fuck else do you think he's doing on a dating site?
Bro,
He's just cutting to the chase.
He wasted time, that's for damn sure.
It's like, listen, I got like 60 other old women, waiting on my beck and call. What makes you special? You're a monkey. You had a monkey? That's great. And he literally chimped out on a woman.
How deep that throat go, though, girl?
Now, how deep can you suck on a banana?
Here, I have a banana handy.
Yeah, it'll remind you of your chimp.
I hate the cheating! The joke cheating! Ugh. Also, hi, chat.
Hello. Yep. Peepa says hello. In the end, all that was really left for Sandy were animals. She put bowls outside for the raccoon. She fed deer in the yard from her hands, and she found another chimpanzee. His name was Chance. She knew she could never bring him back to Connecticut, so she contributed money to a friend out of state, and the two women were to assume a kind of joint custody. One spring day, she sat on a couch in the woman's mobile home. Chance, about a year old, stretched his young, long body out across her lap. Sandy tickled his belly. He climbed all over her. The two of them snuggled and played. They opened their mouths wide and put them up against each other's. Sandy's makeup ran with her tears. Back in Connecticut one day last summer, shortly before sunset, Sandy was alone outside feeding the animals. She looked up. A cloud formation resembling a fish's backbone was unspooling against the sky. She found her camera, held it up, and clicked. Sometime later, her chest began hurting. The pain came on quickly and intensified. Frightened, she called a friend who drove over to her house to sit with her. A hot bath provided no relief. The friend called 911. She put Sandy in her car, in her pink bathrobe and slippers, and drove her down Rockrimmon Road to meet the ambulance on its way. Hello, Kane.
Hello.
What's up, Kane?
We're reading about chimps, man.
Travis, my chimpanzee!
Yeah, no, I played the 911 call at the beginning.
And then Bill O'Reilly.
Yeah, because, she watched a dude that resembled a chimpanzee.
Oh, yeah.
Hold on, let me adjust this. Hold on. I was just saw that there was a little difficulty there in the stream. All right.
Yay.
At the ER, the test determined Sandy's aorta was bulging. She was prepared for emergency surgery. In the operating room, 2 hours in, Sandy's lungs filled with blood. And then, they were all gone. All the heralds were dead. Last May, Charlotte Nash was transferred to a long-term assisted living facility outside Boston. The innumerable cosmetic surgeries she has undergone have accomplished little cosmetically. On her 56th birthday, 9 months after the attack, in what will undoubtedly go down as one of the most extraordinary moments in television history, she revealed her face, a bulbous surface of transmogrified skin, to Oprah Winfrey. She told Winfrey she remembers nothing from the attack and is disinclined to worry about how others see her. "I just look different," she said. "Things happen in life that you can't manage. It's a tragedy." She is financially insolvent. Her two brothers and a team of representatives were apparently shopping 2 book ideas and weighing several movie deals on her behalf. Her daughter is in her freshman year of college, though through Brigham and Women's Hospital, she is hoping to become the world's face and double hand transplant recipient. When her brother informed her of Sandy's death, Charlotte was shocked. She said Charlotte was a troubled woman, and maybe she has some peace now. 241 Rockrimmon Road remains almost exactly as it was the day Sandy left, held in limbo by order of the court. Rumors abounded after Sandy's death that along with jewelry, antiques, and other valuables, somewhere in the ramshackle house she had secreted $80,000 in cash. And burglars broke in 5 times in the first 2 months. The gigantic addition is frozen in mid-construction, exactly as it had been that February day, its windows still glassless, so that leaves and small drifts of snow blot its unfinished floor. The life-size stuffed chimpanzee still sits in the oversized chair in Travis's room, gazing out the window to the backyard and the woods beyond it. A few miles away is a cemetery that has no tombstones. A plot there belongs to the Heralds. Besides Jerry, inside a sealed vault inside a sealed coffin, Sandy Harold wears an animal print shirt and tight jeans distressed from ankle to hip. Her fingernails are painted pink, and her hands rest atop her abdomen. Against her one side stands an urn containing the ashen remains of her daughter Susan. On the other, in the same urn she'd slept with every night since that day in February, are Travis's.
Oh no.
Yeah, well, we got some more monkey shit going on, but, yeah, no kidding. And this is about...
Yeah, and she...
Go on.
Oh, sorry.
And this is
No,
about a woman that, like, gone. Okay.
Okay. No, I was saying, like, she killed herself, if I recall.
This woman, no, but I didn't really kill herself. She had like a heart attack and it like killed her. Probably the grief probably killed her even quicker, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
And this is an article in Rolling Stone by Cheyenne Roundtree, July 30th, 2022. She faked her chimp's death, then things went apeshit.
Apeshit.
By the way, Kane, this is...
Hi, people.
Yep. Hi. Oh, wait. Kane already knows you.
Hi.
Yeah, I met her yesterday.
In a surreal plot straight out of Tiger King, private animal owner Tanya Haddix concocted an elaborate hoax involving Hollywood chimp Tonka as a part of a years-long battle with PETA. So that's where Tonka Saw went.
Wait, the guy's name is Tanya?
No, the guy's name is Tonka.
Oh, no, it just sounded like you said Tanya.
Well, the woman's name is Tanya Haddix, but the ape's name is Tonka, as in, you know, like Tonka Saw.
Or Tonka truck.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like Tonka trucks or some shit. Great,
You're
big.
ready to go Tonka truck immediately.
Some freaking redskin who's obsessed with wrestling.
Yeah, that's who Tonka Saw. And yes, a redskin obsessed with wrestling. He's a football team.
But I think he's a cripple too.
Yeah, hail to the wheelchairs. Fight for that parking lot.
Hail to the king.
Yep. Anyway. It's only been a few days since officials showed up to the exotic animal broker's Missouri home on June 2nd after PETA received a tip that Tonka, a Hollywood movie star chimp in his 30s that Haddix had claimed had died in May 2021, was in fact alive. The 52-year-old had blatantly lied to PETA, a judge, and multiple media outlets, saying that Tonka, who starred in George of the Jungle and Buddy alongside Alan Cumming, had died of heart failure. In reality, she had been stashing the chimp in her basement to avoid giving up Tonka with her 6 other chimps that the judge ruled were being kept in unsafe conditions. So it sounds like, almost sounds like Anne Frank stashing them in the basement, you know, some kind of Holocaust.
There it goes.
It's been an emotional ride for Haddix, who speaks with Rolling Stone a day after authorities took away Tonka and 4 years after extensive legal battle with PETA began. Tonka is the love of my life, she says. He really, truly is. I love him like a son. The insanity of the saga, an acting chip, an elaborate hoax, a messy lawsuit, $20,000 in reward money, and the brief involvement of the attorney for Kyle Rittenhouse and multiple alleged Capitol rioters naturally made national headlines. It all seemed like a fever dream, courtesy reminiscent of Tiger King, with the added mystery of who exactly turned in Haddix, which eventually pointed back to a documentary crew who had been filming Haddix for the past year. And at the center of it all was Tonka, whom Haddix claimed was in such bad shape from congestive heart failure that her vet recommended euthanizing the chimp to spare him any more suffering. Willing to go to any length to protect him, Haddix says she only wanted what was best for the chimp and to be by his side when he died. As she admits, she wound up lying under oath, roping in friends to hide and watch after him, attempting to find ways to fake DNA test results, and claiming she offered federal marshals $10,000 in cash to pretend they saw nothing when they arrived at her home with an emergency court order. Now she faces up to 5 years in prison if she's hit with criminal perjury charges. I don't care what they do to me, Haddix says of possible prison time. I just care about that kid. That kid being an ape, of course. But in perhaps the strangest twist, according to PETA, Haddix was considering euthanizing Tonka when PETA claims there is no evidence to suggest he had even been close to death. Haddix insists Tonka was close to death and denies that she was immediately going to euthanize him. As Brittany Peete, PETA's Deputy General Counsel for Captive Animal Law Enforcement, tells Rolling Stone, virtually everything that comes out of Tanya Haddix's mouth is a lie. Yes, Tanya is lying.
Of course.
Tanya Haddix stands for a portrait next to portraits of capuchin monkeys shown at blah blah Sunrise Beach, Missouri. It's in the middle of the state on the Lake of the Ozarks. Blah blah blah. As bizarre as owning a pet chimpanzee might sound, at least 15,000 primates exist as pets throughout the country, according to the Animal Welfare Institute. Where they can be owned differs state to state, with more than half outright banning or severely restricting the private ownership of exotic animals. Missouri has relatively lax laws concerning animal ownership. I would know. I actually lived about 2 miles away from. I was growing up next to this like monkey reserve. Didn't have like chimps there. They had like monkeys. And
just right away.
when I was in high school, some classmates drunkenly dialed me, asking me, hey, you want to like go steal the frickin' monkeys? I'm like, no.
No, I did not.
No,
Where
I'm
were you
not.
gonna put them?
I'm not stealing monkeys. No. Still, keeping chimpanzees as pets is a highly contested issue. Due to chimps' extreme intelligence, immense strength, a tendency to become violent as they reach adolescence, a critical need for socialization with other chimps in spacious enclosures, virtually all primate experts agree that they should never be kept as pets. Keeping chimps in unstimulating environments and apart from other apes not only poses a safety threat to humans, but also to the animals themselves, causing them extreme distress. Out of concern for the animals' welfare, PETA was so adamant on removing chimps from Haddix's care back in 2019, and why it continued the search for Tonka even after Haddix claimed the chimp had suddenly died. For more than a year, Haddix kept the bold-faced lie going. A remarkable feat for someone who claims they are actually a terrible liar. Anyone that knows me will tell you I'm the most open book that they come by, she says. Here's a pro tip. Anyone who talks about how honest they are is a fucking liar. Just like anyone who says they're a nice guy is actually a fucking jealous prick.
Definitely.
It was hard for me. I think that's probably my downfall because I'm not a good liar. If someone I knew had asked me the question about Tonka, I would tip my eyes. I mean, come on, everybody knew. Candid to a fault and with an eccentric personality, anybody that has an exotic has to have some kind of screw loose, Haddix acknowledges. The former nurse describes herself as born to be a caretaker. She recalls drop-feeding her beloved capuchin monkey Carter for every meal until his death last year. The mother of two is a self-professed girl's girl who cries easily, even over a small monkey's broken arm. She likes a good meme with a Facebook page filled with cheeky chimp pictures and MAGA humor. Surprisingly, Haddix says she's not necessarily a big animal lover, with her affinity specially aimed at dogs and primates, although she does add she does like wallabies. Her other Achilles heel, she says, is being too trusting of others. It is partially the reason that she says she opened up her life to Dwayne Cunningham, who, according to his Facebook page, is a former Ringling Brothers circus clown and animal sanctuary worker, and is an animal lover who Haddix claims approached her around last June with a pitch for a documentary that she was told would support the private ownership of exotic animals. Cunningham did not reply to repeated attempts for comment. Reluctant to work with any type of documentary crew and even warned against the idea by close friends, Haddix says Cunningham won her trust because he was a big animal person. That's why I trusted him, because he would come out early just so he can help bottle feed some of our baby hoofstock, she says. Haddix brought Cunningham and his team into her world, claiming that the crew knew Tonka was alive the entire time. Rolling Stone reviewed a February text message between Haddix and the number she saved as Dwayne, with the latter writing, "We'd like to interview some animal people you know about you defeating PETA and if that gives them any hope for the future." A reference Haddix understood to be about successfully hiding Tonka from PETA at the time. In another text conversation with Cunningham, Haddix appears to talk about trying to find an expert willing to fake animal DNA test results. They communicated frequently, with Cunningham sending her chimp memes and Haddix complaining about PETA. In late May, Cunningham called Haddix and spoke to her at length about Tonka's alleged worsening health. Haddix subsequently agreed for the crew to visit her in early June. That conversation wound up being the tip that PETA got later that month that revealed Tonka was alive, a 28-minute recording of a May 22nd call between Haddix and Cunningham about the documentary. Text reviewed by Rolling Stone show a number saved as Dwayne setting up a call with Haddix for that exact date. The recording confirmed the animal rights group hunch all along, which it had tried to uncover by putting out a $20,000 reward in April with coming for any information about Tonka's whereabouts. No one has claimed the reward, PETA said. According to a 10-page transcript of the call reviewed by Rolling Stone, Haddix spoke with Cunningham about Tonka's supposed congestive heart failure and told him her vet would be examining the ape on June 2nd, possibly euthanizing him if his condition wasn't improving. I mean, he's going to make me stand firm on the appointment because he don't think I'm being fair to Tonka, Haddix is quoted as saying. So he would come there and give him the injection? Cunningham asked. Yeah, he's supposed to be sending me some Valium and stuff over so I can give it to him before he comes, Haddix replied, so he'll be relaxed. Huh. Yeah, maybe we could interview your son and be around then at the same time, Cunningham later said. Let me run it by everybody, but that would work. Because that's the end of the legacy, Haddix added. I should be able to do that for Tonka, Haddix said at the other point in the call, but I just don't know if I can. I'll be honest with you. I don't know that I can let him go, and that's the sad part because I'm being selfish and I know it. You guys don't know how much I love him. It would be another 2 days after federal marshals arrived at her home before Haddix realized that PETA's tip had come from someone aware of her call with Cunningham. She tells Rolling Stone that she didn't know that he had been recording their conversation. I'm beating myself up because I put Tonka in jeopardy just because I was doing a documentary thinking it was going to be for the betterment of private ownership. Then look what I did, Haddix says. Haddix claims that Cunningham denied to her that he had turned her in, but allegedly admitted to her that the film crew had recorded him while on the call. Still, she says, he claimed not to know who would have submitted the recording to PETA. Haddix had more questions, including who Cunningham was working with. She says, after asking repeatedly, Cunningham finally told her the production company was Voice of America, Pro-Animal Ownership Group, as confirmed by a text message reviewed by Rolling Stone. But Haddix says she remembered one slip-up by a member of the film crew that pointed to someone she wanted nothing to do with. Huh?
No, I'm reading something, my bad.
Alright.
Made me laugh.
Neat. While Haddix claims Cunningham was transparent about there being financial backing for the film, flights, hotels, and camera and sound equipment rentals are all costly expenses requiring deep pockets, he was allegedly cagey about exactly who was funding the project. He did say they did have some financial backing, some people that were animal people, Haddix says. He did always allow me to know that it was supposed to be a bigger, grander scheme of things, but he always assured me that the documentary was pro-private ownership because they all felt the same way. Recalling the one slight blunder by a member of the film crew, Haddix tells Rolling Stone someone allegedly made a mention of an Eric having some questions. That threw up a red flag for me, she says. I said, wait, is that Eric Good? And he's like, oh no, but he wouldn't tell me his last name. The Eric Good, who Haddix feared was involved in the project, is the same Good who co-directed Tiger King, the batshit Netflix series about Joe Exotic that became a sensation in early 2020, spawning a scripted Peacock series, a catchy parody of Megan Thee Stallion's Savage, and landing the woman at its center, Carol Baskin, on Dancing with the Stars. Despite Haddix claiming the film crew member denied Good's involvement in the documentary, Rolling Stone obtained LLC filings for a company called Voice of America that names Good as the manager. Huh, she was right. It happens to bear the first part of the company name that Cunningham said was working on Haddix's documentary, Voice of America Pro-Animal Ownership Group. Formed in September 2021, the firm is listed as a film production company and shares an address with Good's other production company, Good Films. Good did not respond to a request for comment. Out of the 3 film crew members who Haddix identified as being involved with the project, 2 have direct ties with Good's Turtle Conservancy, including one that was credited as a camera assistant on Tiger King. When reached by phone, 2 film crew members confirmed to Rolling Stone they had worked on the project, but distanced themselves by saying they were working in a freelance capacity or had barely met Haddix. A Good Film source who was privy to information about the documentary's production confirmed to Rolling Stone that Good's team was behind the project. The source claims they were aware that concerns had been raised by the crew about feeling disturbed by the state of Tonka's care. Probably left his wheelchair out to rust. The source also alleges there were discussions among the production team over being uncomfortable with the ethics of Haddix being in the dark about who was behind the documentary. Believing the information was purposely withheld, Haddix says she would have never participated in the documentary if she knew Good was involved. Good was previously accused of misleading documentary participants by Baskin and her husband, Howard Baskin, who claimed Good and his production partner deceived them into participating in Tiger King. They claimed they believed the documentary would be the Blackfish version of exposing the bad guys of the big cat community. Good previously denied that Baskin was duped, telling the Los Angeles Times in 2020, Baskin knew that this was not just about big cats. She certainly wasn't coerced. In a statement to Rolling Stone, Howard Baskin writes that he found it an outrageous lie that Good and his partner claimed they were forthright with Tiger King's participants. I heard that and wanted to send them a dictionary with the forthright page tabbed, he writes. In my opinion, they're people who are simply missing whatever gene in the DNA is responsible for giving us any moral values or integrity. Totally missing. There is no clear-cut code of ethics for documentarians to abide by, explains Stacy Wolfel, a professor at the Missouri School of Journalism and director of its documentary program. But there are general expectations. If there's anything that comes close to a code of ethics, it's that you should create trust and treat your characters and participants with respect, he explains. The other half of that is you should treat the audience with respect. Excuse me. Award-winning documentarian Dan Berman, president of the Berman Productions and a documentary professor at University of Southern California, Annenberg, adds it's a filmmaker's responsibility to be as transparent as humanly possible. Feeling misled and now wary of the documentary's direction, Haddix speculates that if indeed someone in the crew had turned her into PETA, it was possibly done to amp up the project's drama. She has vowed to make sure the project never comes out. I'm gonna stop that production, Haddix says. It's not gonna happen. It would be under false pretenses. There will be none. Jesus Christ. Let me see how far this goes down. Okay, so it goes down. Alright, there it is. Okay. That's just weird as shit, you know, like.
It looks like a BDSM room.
Yeah, it is, like, I don't think I want to spank the monkey in there. Tonka's home in Haddix's basement now sits empty. Painted in bright primary colors, his enclosure was surrounded by brick walls and a glass window that opened up to the rest of the basement. Haddix claims he was spoiled rotten with a 60-inch TV, an iPad-like device, and the occasional McDonald's Happy Meals. She even bought Tonka a new hammock and swing, which Haddix says he showed little interest in. He didn't have many visitors besides Haddix and a handful of trusted close friends. Outsiders couldn't be trusted, she says. Those who were privy to Haddix's secret attended parties she threw for Tonka, such as a St. Patrick's Day bash, where Tonka was seen in Facebook photos wearing a festive hat and leprechaun headband. For Easter, he drank soda and was given a basket filled with M&Ms and other candies. Huh. But human contact was limited, and by Haddix's own admission, she wouldn't get in the cage with Tonka in case he got upset. In the past 3 decades, there have been more than 450 incidents of privately owned primates injuring or killing people, according to PETA. As they age out of being these cute, cuddly infants, they reach sexual maturity and become highly aggressive, very unpredictable, essentially being the wild animals they were meant to be, explains Kate Delweski, a senior policy advisor at the Animal Welfare Institute. To deal with this, private owners will often keep them in cages, tethered and confined, Delweski adds. It's really an awful life for animals that have sophisticated existence in the wild. As a result of the animal's distress due to isolation and unstimulating environments, you're going to end up with chimps that are depressed and go into mental disparity, where they have to entertain themselves constantly throughout the day, says Ollie Crumpacker, executive director of Project Chimps. That can create all sorts of psychoses, where they pull out their hair because they're so much in need of stimuli. They're actually causing pain to their own body just to have something exciting going on in their day. Well, that's pretty metal. Haddix not only didn't provide Tonka with a proper living environment, PETA's Pete says, but by faking his death, she also prevented him from joining his partner Tammy and the rest of his chimp family at the sanctuary they were sent to. Tonka was sent to save the chimp sanctuary, while the other 6 primates were sent to the Center for Great Apes. What Haddix did to Tonka had nothing to do with Tonka, Pete says. It was pure selfishness. She denied Tonka not only the companionship of other chimpanzees, but she took him away from his family, Pete adds, also citing the lack of nutrition and exercise Tonka was receiving. But Haddix sees things differently, citing her bond with Tonka, who she frequently refers to as her child. Haddix says going without human interaction will kill him. If anybody knows Tonka, Tonka is not a normal chimpanzee. See ya, Kane. Alright, we'll see you back later. He doesn't act like another chimpanzee. He loves people. Ultimately, under Missouri law, Haddix says she was completely within her rights to own Tonka and whatever animals she believes she can properly care for. Tonka was my chimp legally, and even though a judge did not agree with that, I did not agree with her, Haddix says. I felt I had to fake his death to protect him, because I didn't feel like we got our fair day in court. If you can't beat the system, you got to go by what you think is the right thing to do. Differing state laws is why the Animal Welfare Institute, PETA, and other animal rights organizations have thrown support behind the Captive Primates Safety Act, which would make it illegal at the federal level to buy or transport primates across state lines, significantly clamping down on people obtaining primates as pets. Until the bill is passed or state laws change, some citizens are legally allowed to own their chimps no matter how unethical or harmful experts might deem the practice. It's turned animal rights groups into watchdogs to ensure the animals are being well cared for. If there's an inkling of mistreatment, poor living conditions, or certain Animal Act violations, the owners could be forced to relinquish their exotic pets. That's exactly how Haddix ended up clashing against PETA, although the nonprofit was first suing Tonka's original owner, Connie Casey, hoping to see her chimps relocated to an accredited sanctuary. This is the woman that helped birth Travis, the chimp, we talked about earlier. Casey and her ex-husband Mike owned and operated the now-defunct Chimp Party, later tidily renamed the Missouri Primate Foundation. Located in Festus, Missouri, about 30 miles south of St. Louis, Casey had put her animals to work, renting out young chimps for birthday parties, photo shoots, and even movies. One of Casey's chimps, Connor, was pictured on several Hallmark cards, according to PETA. Casey's facility was reportedly one of the largest breeders of chimpanzees in the country, fetching up to $50,000 for a young chimp. By 2009, Casey claimed she had sold up to 20 chimps. For decades, this despicable outfit was ground zero for chimpanzees who were bred and sold as props and pets, Pete said in a 2016 statement announcing the group's intention to sue Casey. You know, it's like when the worst person in the world has a point. That's how I'm feeling about PETA right now. I'm not going to lie. It's like the worst person just made the best point. I mean, people want to bitch about pit bulls. I mean, I don't know. I think a chimpanzee is probably about 10 times as dangerous as a pit. You know?
Yeah. And I don't understand why a lot of people, like, when they see a chimp smiling, that they think he's actually smiling. Like, when a chimp is baring their teeth, it means they're telling you to stay the fuck away, or they're gonna bite your face off.
And rip your balls off with their bare hands with a smile on their face.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know, but chimpanzees are fucking psychopaths.
Well, it kind of makes sense. They're the closest relatives we have in the animal kingdom.
Yep.
Naturally, our relatives are the psycho ball-ripping ones and face-eating ones. Terrific.
Like, they legit, like commit genocide against other chimp tribes.
I saw that Count Dankula video. No, it's Jane Goodall. Actually, I saw her in person at the RLDS temple over in Independence, Missouri. They put this giant freaking spiral at the top, that they think Jesus is going to descend. And I'm thinking, what, is he going to like go down a slide saying, wee? And on the wind's blowing through his hands and feet? You know? Like, fuck. But, you know, talking about stuff like this, it was kind of interesting. Mildly. PETA's suit against Casey was based on what it alleged in court documents as the unlawful and inhumane conditions at the Missouri Primate Foundation. The compound was a lightning rod for violations, according to PETA. I just plugged my phone in. That's what that was. According to PETA and the United States Department of Agriculture, between 2011 and 2016, the USDA found numerous sanitary violations on the premises, according to court records revealed by the Rolling Stone. Debris, flies, and roaches remained common throughout the facility. There was excessive food waste and trash in the enclosures. Feces built up on barrels in the enclosures and encrusted on the chimpanzee's feet, PETA claimed in a 2017 legal filing against Casey, noting she had 16 chimps under her care in 2016. Casey's foundation also deprived her chimpanzees of crucial social interaction by keeping them isolated from one another, the USDA claimed, according to filings in PETA's suit against Casey. The organization also found the facility was not an adequate environment for the chimps, causing some of the animals to show signs of being in psychological distress through behavior and appearance, according to the PETA lawsuit. In 2009, one of the chimps born at the Missouri Primate Foundation made national news. Connecticut couple Sandra and Jerome Jerry Howard purchased their chimp, Travis, from Casey for $50,000 when he was days old in 1995. Travis would sleep in bed with him, learned how to ride a bike, and was treated to steak and lobster tails at restaurants. Then, on February 16, 2009, Travis snapped, horrifically attacking Harold's longtime friend, Charlotte Nash, ripping Nash's nose, eyelids, lips, and hands from her body. The case made national news, and Casey attempted to paint the tragedy as an isolated incident. The Travis situation was a very unusual and horrible thing to happen, she told documentarian Louis Theroux in 2011. It's not the breed, it's the owner. And in this case, the owner was a dumb, narcissistic bitch.
Yeah.
But to Jason Coates, it wasn't a one-off. He tells Rolling Stone how he felt forced to defend himself in 2001 when he shot and fatally wounded Travis's mother, Susie, who had escaped from Casey's compound along with 2 other chimps. Coates claimed Susie was beginning to charge towards him when he shot the chimp 3 times. Although Coates and his friends testified in court that the chimps were out of control, Casey gave a drastically different version of events, claiming Susie had been sitting peacefully. Coates was arrested and later found guilty of animal abuse and property damage, and was a registered felon for 20 years. His record was expunged only last year, 2021 at this point. Coates believed that had the incident happened today, he wouldn't have gone to jail, and has become proactive in advocating against the private ownership of chimps. There's no reason that any of these animals should be anywhere near a residential area or a home with children, he says. No shit. Casey was in the thick of her lawsuit with PETA when Haddix arrived, hoping to buy a baby chimp from her. Befriending the elderly woman, Haddix says she thought she could help Casey wriggle out of the lawsuit by simply taking her chimpanzees off her hands. Moving into a mobile home on Casey's compound, Haddix and Casey declared in court documents that Haddix became the legal owner of the chimps and took over their care in late 2018. PETA argued that nothing had materially changed, with the living conditions at Casey's facility remaining grossly inadequate for the chimps as they added Haddix to the lawsuit. After dozens of back-and-forth court filings with subpoenas, declarations, and motions to compel discovery from Haddix, PETA and Haddix came to an agreement. According to a September 2020 consent decree, Haddix would give 4 chimps to the Center for Great Apes in Wauchula, Florida. In return, she would be allowed to keep 3 chimps, including Tonka. However, Haddix needed to overhaul the facility within 6 months, including installing or constructing an outdoor primadome, structured enclosure for the apes. If she failed to comply with all stipulations of the decree, Haddix would have to turn over the 3 chimps to a sanctuary. By January 2021, PETA alleged in court docs that Haddix had defaulted on her obligations on 4 separate occasions and had evidence that indicates she had information she previously provided during her cure periods is, at least in part, false and fraudulent. In June 2021, after a judge found Haddix in contempt of court for violating consent decree, he ordered all 7 animals, including the 3 chimps Haddix was originally allowed to keep, to be sent to the Center for Great Apes. A day after the judge's order, Haddix began to claim to local news outlets that Tonka had died from heart failure on May 30. In reality, she now says she secreted Tonka away to a friend's house, where he remained until fall 2021 when she moved him into her new home. When PETA's attorney, Jared Goodman, emailed Haddix for more details about Tonka's death, Haddix was curt. "I don't appreciate you questioning my integrity," she responded, according to court records. "You have repeatedly pushed and have insulted my morals. If you don't like my answers or don't feel like I have done everything I can for these chimps, then you truly need to get your 4 awarded chimps and leave me the hell alone." In July, Haddix was forced to give up the 6 chimps who were transported to the animal sanctuary. Jesus Christ. As PETA continued to push for specifics and proof of Tonka's death. Haddix ended up hiring attorney John Pierce, who represented Kenosha, Wisconsin protest shooter Kyle Rittenhouse and several alleged January 6 Capitol rioters. Haddix fired Pierce in November. Pierce did not respond to a request for comment from Rolling Stone. In email submitted as court evidence, Jerry Aswegan, Haddix's husband, detailed how he allegedly disposed of Tonka's body, claiming he had burned the chimp's body for roughly 4 hours at 170 degrees. That wouldn't even make him medium rare. I mean, seriously. Needless to say, it did the job, he wrote. In addition to Haddix, the judges also referred to Aswegan to the district attorney's office for possible criminal perjury charges. PETA called bullshit, claiming in court papers that the low temperature in short amount of time wouldn't even properly roast a turkey. In another court filing, Aswegan countered it was simply a typo and he meant 1700 degrees. Yeah, totally. After several more attempts to get Haddix to produce adequate documentation and information about Tonka's supposed death, Judge Catherine Perry issued an order last December that PETA needed to provide evidence that Tonka is still living or that Haddix is otherwise in contempt of court. The case was essentially at a stalemate. Trying to dig up information on Tonka's whereabouts, PETA put out appeals for information and teamed up with Cumming. Finally, nearly a year after Haddix claimed Tonka died, PETA announced it had received the recorded phone call tip, which led to Tonka's discovery. Even when officials arrived at her home, Haddix says she was still figuring out how to keep Tonka, slipping out her back door to make some phone calls. Haddix said a marshal spotted her and confiscated her cell phone. "Trust me, I was trying to strategically plan on how I could get Tonka out of there," she tells Rolling Stone. "I'll be honest, if I could have gotten him out of there in between them, I would have, because I would have got him in a trailer and I would have loaded him and we would have been gone." She also says she wasn't above offering officials cash to turn a blind eye. "I said, please guys, I'll give you $10,000 each. I've got plenty of cash in this house," she claims she told marshals. "I said, I'll give you a brick of $10,000 if you guys would just turn around, walk out, and tell them you did not find a chimpanzee here." Yeah, someone's going to sacrifice 2 months of pay for their entire career. Dumbass. Probably even less than that, honestly. Haddix is uncertain where things will go from here. Her first order of business is dealing with the prospect of jail time if Missouri's Eastern District U.S. Attorney's Office pursues criminal charges against her. But she has no regrets, and her focus remains on Tonka. "I just know that I don't want him to suffer at my expense," she says. This deep love of Tonka caused Haddix to struggle with her vet Casey Talbot's advice to put him down because the chimp was allegedly in dire health conditions. Haddix says the vet told her he was in congestive heart failure and had only weeks to live. Tonka has been in bad health for quite some time, Haddix alleges. He had a massive stroke, he's had congestive heart failure, he's been on several medications, and basically has had vet care to evaluate him frequently. And the last vet visit, the vet recommended that he be euthanized, she claims. But PETA offers a radically different assessment of Tonka's health to Rolling Stone after its own veterinarians did an assessment of Tonka after his rescue, which included blood work and ultrasound and EKG. PETA says there was no suggestion that Tonka was suffering from congestive heart failure. PETA has cast doubt on Talbot's credential for caring for primates, claiming to Rolling Stone that the vet mostly works with farm and domestic animals, and she had no formal training on care for primates. A representative for the medical program Talbot attended confirmed to Rolling Stone it does not offer any courses regarding the care of large primates. While Tonka needs dental work and is substantially overweight, the examination did not show signs of congestive heart failure, which his former owner claimed he had for the last year. Valerie A. Kirk, Save the Chimps director of veterinary services, says in a statement provided by PETA. He shows no need for the heavy doses of medication that she was reportedly giving him or the euthanasia she was reportedly considering. Although Haddix told Rolling Stone multiple times that she would readily produce Tonka's medical records or have her vet speak with Rolling Stone, the documents never materialized and the vet didn't return a request for comment. I don't think we'll ever know exactly what really happened, but the important thing is that Tonka is now safe, and we're so excited to see what the rest of his life will bring, Pete says. I'm thankful that he finally has the chance to be peaceful. It's tragic, but beautiful, because that's exactly what chimpanzees should have, is choice and control over their lives. How the fuck is a chimp making any choices? Ugh. Tonka now resides at the Save the Chimps Sanctuary in Fort Pierce. God damn it! God, I'm stumbling over shit tonight. Tonka now resides at the Save the Chimps Sanctuary in Fort Pierce, Florida. Haddix tells Rolling Stone it was the last place she wanted Tonka to end up, referencing a 2020 report that revealed the sanctuary had 12 Animal Welfare Act violations between 2015 and 2020, including 3 citations for medical care. After the report, Save the Chimps announced a change in leadership and structure, adding a human resources director to the team. So they'll just put a better face on it. The 150-acre compound, which was founded in 1997, is the world's largest privately funded chimp sanctuary, according to the nonprofit, with more than 200 chimps currently living on the grounds, divided into communities across a dozen 3-acre islands. Like Tonka, his new neighbors have all come to the facility after being rescued from various research labs, the pet trade, and the entertainment industry. With a relatively clean bill of health, Tonka can expect to live another 20 to 30 years, Pete says. There's also a chance he could be reunited with his chimp family from the Missouri Primate Foundation, his partner Tammy, as well as Candy, Crystal, Connor, Carrie, and Michaela at their sanctuary. If his adjustment period goes well and space opens up. For now, the chimp is enjoying his time snacking on oranges and pomegranate seeds and swinging in his hammock, according to PETA and Save the Chimps. He has adapted well, greeting and excitedly interacting with other nearby chimps, something Haddix had claimed he would shun in favor of a preference for humans. Most of his days are spent outside, with South Florida's subtropical climate filling in for his natural habitat. When there are downpours, the other chimpanzees flee for cover, but Tonka stays put, letting the rain hit his skin. Sounds like Shawshank Redemption. So, how did this all end? You know, how did this all end? Got a press release from the United States Attorney's Office, Eastern District of Missouri. Looks like it was March 31st, relatively recently. A Missouri woman on Monday admitted lying in U.S. District Court and in court filings about the purported death of Tonka, a chimpanzee that was one of the subjects of a long-running federal civil suit. Tanya Haddix waived her right to indictment by a grand jury and pleaded guilty in U.S. District Court in St. Louis to 3 felony charges, 2 counts of perjury and 1 count of obstruction of justice. She admitted that her false statements influenced and obstructed the administration of justice in the pending civil suit. That suit, originally filed in 2016, involved allegations by People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, PETA, over the care of primates, including Tonka, at a facility near Festus, Missouri. In October 2020, the district court entered its consent decree requiring that Haddix, who was then operating the Festus facility, take certain steps relative to Tonka. What followed, based upon Haddix's failure to comply with the provisions of the district court's consent decree, were a series of motions seeking civil contempt against Haddix filed by PETA. So, yeah, this is basically all the legalese and all this crap. Basically, she had to go give up her fucking license for owning chimpanzees.
Rip.
Yeah, well, and I'd say that's really about it right now. I got nothing else. I know it's kind of a bit of a short stream, but you know what? I'd say that's about enough. Y'all have a good night.
Good night, man.